people think tech stuff in quotes mysterious. It's not. So for some people, so younger people too are watching, and maybe for the first time they're saying that this is not mysterious. This is something relatable. Obviously, it's not like I'm teaching entire syllabus. Most of them are basic concepts. This is how the internet interacts with work. This is what machine learning is. This is how it's different from normal algorithm. This is cybersecurity. The goal is just mostly to teach some of the most important things and the way they affect your life, and why you should be part of those conversations. This is what digital learning is. These are the career options.
My guest today is a pharmacy graduate turned AI researcher, data scientist, and technical trainer. She currently teaches concepts around tech, the internet, and computers as a LinkedIn instructor, and more recently expanded this in one of the most scholastically studied languages in West Africa, called Yoruba. She's currently a data science researcher at Imperial in London. My guest today is Wurola Oyewusi. Welcome to the show, Wurola. How are you doing today?
Hello, May. I'm doing great. Nice to be here.
Awesome. Such a pleasure to have you on the show. We want to hear about your journey towards tech. Maybe start from telling us how you even got into pharmacy in the first place and how that sort of brought you to data science as the trajectory to follow.
Okay, so I studied pharmacy because my dad suggested it. So we've been having the conversation. I said, "Oh, I didn't want medicine. I didn't want to spend that long in school." I think there was a time I said, "Oh, I wanted to be a petroleum engineer," and then one day my dad said, and then one day he said, "I know this ophthalmologist." I said, "No, I don't want to spend that long in school." And then one day he said, "Oh, I know this pharmacist." And then I said, "How many years?" He said, I think it's 5 years. And then he mentioned maybe one of our family friends that is a pharmacist. I said, okay, seemed like it makes sense. And then I gave it a shot. Um, so I studied pharmacy, and what else? And of course, after pharmacy school, internship, was practicing. But then so about data science, so I enjoyed being a pharmacist. I always try to say that because I know there's usually an assumption that maybe I didn't like it or something. No, I did. I enjoyed being a pharmacist, but I just wanted to see, okay, can I try other things? And then one day I saw a job description for a data analyst. And then I said, I can do everything on this list. I said, we do this. It's just a different name. And then I saw SQL. SQL is like it's not a full programming language, but you use it to get data out of databases. And then I Googled what's a SQL. And then I said, oh, this makes sense. There's data somewhere. And then they write this notation to get it out. So I enrolled for my first SQL course. And yeah, so I enrolled for sequence and then for SQL, for people that call it SQL. And then one day I saw a pop-up about Python. I said, I was thinking programming is mostly for people who want to do websites. I don't think I'll be great with mixing colors for website. And then I saw data science, AI. I said, this looks cool. And then I started reading. I said, this looks cool. This looks cool. And then I thought it was pretty interesting. And I guess I bought my first specialization, and then I just kept at it. So that was how I got into data science, purely by chance.
Awesome. I'm very curious to hear, you spoke about when you first saw the data analyst job spec and how similar it was to things you were already doing within the pharmacy industry. Maybe you can share for us what the parallels are between what you would do in a pharmacy sort of role career and how that sort of was very parallel to the data analyst role, obviously minus the SQL. Like, what are the parallels there in terms of the day-to-day role?
Oh, wow. Some of the parallel definitely, preferably, I think in principles, you may want to do something, but there's the principle behind it. For example, if you're a pharmacist, you're probably doing predictive analytics. You make a decision about, we have a new season, people are going to have a lot of cold and a fever, then you up on those medication. You have those medication that they probably don't move often, but you have to have them as emergency. It's part of planning. So, you have those thinking, and then many places, you look at your data, the quantity that went away last month of your medication. Are doctors, prescribing it in your institution? If doctors are not prescribing the medication, do they need a prompt to know that it's available and things like that? That's what you do as a data analyst, even in big organizations. There's been sales, you want to move sales further. There's a pattern with sales, maybe in a particular area. Maybe your organization used to make higher sales. Okay, so is there a competition? So if a medication is not moving, I'm speaking from the context of maybe public facing institutions right now. It's not moving off your shelf. What are doctors prescribing? Because you can still see that that disease exists. Clients are coming. So why is it not moving? And then sometimes you get requests for certain medication. Why is that going up? So you as a pharmacist, you're consistently making decisions, either in clinical settings, if you're on the ward rounds, or this patient is poor, cannot afford this particular brand. Why are you choosing? So it's series of questions about why and what can you do to make it better. And that's what pharmacists do. The series of questions about data. This is why. And so I just felt I've been doing this. It just has a different name. I've been doing this. I think I should give this a shot.
Very cool. Very cool. And so we know you're an AI researcher, you're working at Imperial at the moment. Maybe talk to us a little bit more about what your specialisms and areas of research focus on at the moment.
Okay, so I moved to the United Kingdom. I moved to the UK last year. Last year, I think it's around this time. So I just applied a team, a research team. It was looking for a data scientist for one of a data scientist for one of it's mostly a data curation project. We're working on deriving the form of curation scores when people are not dating data. So yeah, we were, so we're bringing in few AI techniques in the scoring. Not few, a lot. We're bringing AI techniques in how the quality of annotation is being scored. So I think and it's on clinical data. So yeah.
Very interesting. Very interesting.
Yeah, so it's on clinical data. So
and so I also sort of picked up like you have some natural language processing interests. Can you talk a little bit more about that? And also seeing that you are a LinkedIn instructor, how did you get into that? How did you get into the tech teaching space?
Well, where do natural language processing is just a subset of AI. It just happens I've done quite in fact in my previous role in leading research, I think one of our most popular work is not even the natural language processing. One of our most popular work is in computer vision, these Africa fashion AI data sets. I think it's one of our most important work, at least in the ecosystem. I enjoy working with text, specifically on structured data. So yeah, text is a type of unstructured data. So I just happen to have worked with text a lot. Currently, I'm working with text. So like how typically say, there's the fundamentals, and then there are different ways that you use it. And being an instructor on LinkedIn, they usually put out you just apply to be a tutor. Like you think you have a course you want to teach, there's the link there. So I saw it on Twitter and I applied last year. Yeah, I've been an instructor since last year, but my final, my course came out this year. So, but I've been an instructor.
Very cool. I checked out your course. It's very highly rated. I'll put a link in the show notes as well if people are interested. So going from there, obviously, the reason I discovered you is because you went viral on teaching tech in another language, which is Yoruba, which is a very popular language on the continent, it's particularly in West Africa. So tell us a little bit more about that, your connection to that. Why did you want to teach tech in another language, and what was that whole process like for you?
Oh, well, I was just goofing. The first video, yeah, I'll say that I have the privilege of being a native speaker. I speak Yoruba very well, and I definitely, the first video I made was trying to introduce, oh, this is what this is like in Yoruba. I think the first video was an introduction to AI in Yoruba. And then I was just goofing. I knew people will watch, but it's not like I expected that quite a number of people will watch everywhere. Because I've been creating technical content for a long time. Yeah, as you know, as soon as I switched career, I used to write about, oh, this AI technique, this is how it works in healthcare, this is how it works in Yoruba. I've done, just technical articles, not
Right.
necessarily publication this time around, and even
Mhm.
publishing papers. If you try this technique, this is what it looks like in Yoruba language. So I've been doing it for a while. Just I understand this data. It's just a pleasure. It's sharing things from two different perspectives that I understand well, so why not?
Yeah, absolutely. And what kind of feedback have you gotten from people that are actually maybe they only speak Yoruba? Like, what has that experience been like for them? Are they able to connect better with tech? I imagine also the older demographic of that audience that may only speak just that one language might also benefit from it more than others. So I want to hear more about the demographic of the audience, etc.
Oh, well, for the data that I have from YouTube, the people watching the most are between 35 and 45. And but people are watching from all over the world. People are watching definitely Nigeria, UK, US. People are watching from maybe Spain, Spain. And then some people, there are Yoruba people in Benin Republic, they say hello, that, oh, we saw this video. I'm like, oh, cool. Like, but I think there's a perception that the people watching the most are people who speak Yoruba only, but that's not how knowledge works. There's a part of knowledge sharing. People who speak Yoruba alone, it doesn't mean they're not curious about how some of these things work in their life. So there is curiosity. There are people who speak English, but they just enjoy to watch in their first language, which is Yoruba. Some of them are watching. People watch a lot on LinkedIn. They watch. I share just LinkedIn, Twitter, and YouTube. I don't have the energy to have to put it on Facebook to try to respond. I have like an entirely like life. So I just share in the places that I can. But people are curious, and then there's the inherent thing that people think tech stuff in quotes mysterious. It's not. So for some people, so younger people too are watching, and maybe for the first time they're saying that this is not mysterious, this is something relatable. Obviously it's not like I'm teaching entire syllabus. Most of them are basic concepts. This is how the internet interacts with work. This is what machine learning is. This is how it's different from normal algorithm. There's a cybersecurity. The goal is just mostly to teach some of the most important things and the way they affect your life, and why you should be part of those conversations. This is what digital learning is. These are the career options. And then maybe some of the people that enjoy it the most, there are quite a number of people that work in tech that their parents don't understand what they do at work. So I'm like their unofficial interpreter now. And then they said, oh, my mom, she gets it now. She heard you talk about what I do and she thinks it's pretty cool. They don't think I'm just sitting at my laptop again. And I said, those people should pay me.
Well, I think there's a YouTube creators, like I'm sure there's like a Patreon version of that on YouTube where you can collect like membership subscriptions. So I'm sure you
Oh,
can look
sure.
that
People are
up.
subscribing on YouTube and,
Yeah, yeah,
the watch hour thing.
yeah,
But, it's just one of the things that I do. It's
yeah.
tempting for people to assume that that's the major thing that I do, but it's not. It's
No,
just
no, totally understand. But I mean, it's what you've gone viral for in the last couple of weeks. So it's now
yeah.
you can start to educate your audience about your entire profile. I really love what you're doing. I actually run another podcast with Cornell for emerging markets, and I'm currently focused on startups in Africa. And we've been talking to people doing lots of things there. And I think one of the things I see for the future is with the increase in smartphone adoption, internet penetration, and how that flows through the continent. And then the fact that people now have access to knowledge at their fingertips in those countries, another 10, 20, 50 years from now, the economic progress of a lot of countries will advance because of those factors all coming together over time. It's almost inevitable that you will see economic progress eventually come out of that, ability. Like literally, if you want to teach yourself coding, as long as you have the internet, there aren't a lot of barriers in your way. A lot of those things are coming down. So I feel like a lot of what you're doing kind of sort of puts into that foundation as well of building a pipeline of knowledge that people can access at their fingertips. So given, I think the statistic is over 20 million people speak Yoruba, what do you see as the impact that your teaching has on the planet?
Oh, well, uh, some of the thing about impact, there are those things that I can measure, maybe by the view, but many times it's beyond those things that I can see. Uh, w- w- I literally switched careers by learning online, and I usually say the truth. It was intense. It wasn't casual. I it wasn't casual. I went hard on it until I became great at what I do, until I became great at data science, AI. I learned the math, I learned the machine learning. So I understand the power of the internet. I do because it's not theoretical. It's not because I read it somewhere. It's literally changed the trajectory of the type of opportunities and the type of things that I can be part of. I had some good privilege from being a pharmacist, so it's not a thing of there were, and then there's this privilege that comes with being able to relate to what I'm learning online. So this impact, I can't say for I get so many interesting messages, and I'm like, oh, this is super cool. And then some people share about, oh, it's nice you share some cultural things, because many times I want to keep it short, but then I don't want people to think it's mysterious, because quite a number of things, it's historical. The last video I made about e-commerce, I shared about, oh, this is Yoruba culture and perspective to how trade works, and this is how it's coming to e-commerce. It's easier for people to go from the known to the unknown. So it's two types of people. There are some people who understand from the perspective of culture. Now they're learning about e-commerce. There are people who are already part of the e-commerce ecosystem who are probably younger. Then they get to get a bit of the historical context. So it's pretty nice to be able to give those to people. You can learn a few words in Yoruba. Some people are learning Yoruba. I remember the first two videos, I didn't have subtitles. I later added maybe on YouTube because it's I had to learn how to add that. I was just goofing. I wasn't expecting that many people to watch, but now I do, because they are the language learners, they are the tech learners, they are the language learners, there are people learning for entertainment. There are people whose confidence to give these new skills a shot has increased. They just think, oh, if you can break it down this way, then I can get it. There are people that say, I don't usually understand this, but because you have explained it this way, I understand. And then definitely in AI, there are things, there are conversations about data use, ethics. Of course, people who don't speak English, they should not be cut out of this education, that this is how your data is being used. This, yes, you should have an idea. You may not be able to control everything, but you should have an idea of this is how your data is being used. Systems that make decisions like this about you, this is how they are trained. Just have an idea. So I don't have the specific numbers, but who knows?
No, that is a very rich context. You mentioned when you were speaking, when you started out, you did a lot of online learning and it wasn't easy, in being honest with that process. what are your thoughts around sort of the future of learning, especially, with so much surge in digital learning post the pandemic, and your understanding of where the difficulties are? Where do you see things going, or how do you think things can improve so that the quality of the learning experience delivers something that's like, more sort of valuable for people overall and useful?
Oh, well, I have a lot of respect for what digital learning does. And then I remember when I was getting familiar with tech, many times I'm like, oh, this is free. I usually say tech is generous, extremely generous in the way information is being shared. But I don't think people should be overwhelmed with many sources. Quite a number of people that complain, like, I don't know the next direction. Many times is because they're not putting in enough time. Quite a number of people just want to do a couple of courses and want to be good, but that's not how it works. There's a central goal. The central goal is that you want to understand the conversations and to be a decision maker. That's how you earn trust. That's how you are a professional. So the internet also has democratized how knowledge works. If a course comes out today at maybe Princeton, if it's on Coursera, I'm learning the same thing as anyone anywhere else in the world, and that is amazing. That is amazing. It's literally, oh, what, mind blowing. If if a new let's say a new language model comes out, if it's released on the internet, even if I'm as long as I have access to the internet, that access to knowledge, that's the life-changing thing. So and then you also have the opportunity to choose your teachers, because that may not necessarily work, in person if you're like stuck in a school. But let's say you don't, let's say you and I are teaching a course, and then, some people just prefer to hear maybe your accent. It's okay for them to choose that. So the opportunity to choose your teacher, to choose your medium, you don't understand enough, you go to YouTube. You you don't learn well by videos, you want a structured course, then you buy a structured course. Oh, you're bored, maybe the structured course is not enough for you, then you go for the articles. um it's amazing.
It is. It truly is. So there's a lot of technology that's actually helping to bridge that gap, like, convert content into multiple languages so that it can be distributed at the click of the button. What technologies are you most excited about? And it doesn't have to necessarily be EdTech focused, but even at higher level, what are you most excited about in the tech industry to come?
Oh, well, I'm excited about the internet. I've mentioned it. I'm excited about, many times. Sometimes I just randomly tweet, wow, wow, the internet. It's wow, like that's just what I can say. I'm excited about the internet because if I can't bake a type of cake, it's just a click away. And then I'm following. Oh, I don't understand this person's method. I'll find someone who is mentioning the specific measurement. Oh, the big tech people, they've released this model. I can sign up to be a tester. It's amazing. So I'm going to say the internet. Of course, if it's not a tool in that sense, I'm going to say the mind. The mind is amazing. It's amazing the things you can do. It's pretty cool. Like you know,
As you're going off of
and
that, sorry.
I'm a fan of technical textbooks. I encourage people who I mentor. I usually encourage them to learn by textbooks too, and to write. It's pretty
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah. So what sort of ideas or books or people have been the most influential on your journey so far?
Oh, well, I'm going to say my parents. My parents are interesting people. They when I was I remember when I was switching, transitioning careers, I had not been home. And then I came home. I was home with my parents, with my siblings, and then I was telling them all about data science and all that. And then my mom, she said, because you didn't study computer and all that. But from this conversation, we think you're having a great time. That's what my dad said. I was giving them use cases. This is how it relates to what you do. And then they said, we think you're having a great time. And then, we think you'll be fine. Like, it was pretty nice because they said, "Oh, it's not like we understand all the intricacies, but from how you sound about this, we think so I have the privilege of the flexibility and yeah, so I'm going to see my parents. And then my previous boss at Data Science Nigeria, Bayo Adekombi. Maybe one of these days, if you get hold of him, it's an interesting work that is being done in Nigeria about AI education. Data, say it's not a fluke. It's pretty cool.
Yes, I think we're connected on LinkedIn as well, actually. But yeah, very fascinating organization. Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
real. We did such interesting work, and of course I was leading the research thing. We did such interesting work. Quite a number of people, because of the influence of that community, they've
Yeah.
gone on to do their masters, their PhD in data science, in AI. It's inspiring. It's something that I loved being part of, and it's something that I'll always support.
Amazing, amazing. So what are you hoping to do after your research at Imperial? What's sort of like next on the horizon for you?
Oh, well, my research at Imperial, I'm not a student, I'm a staff on that team. Quite a number of people think maybe it's a PhD or a master's. It's not. I'm I'm working on that research team. Maybe when we get to that bridge, we'll cross it. I'm not but the only thing that is certain is that I'll be having a great time, whatever I decide to do. I always do.
Love that attitude. I mean, technically, you're still involved in work that's to do with clinical data, so you're not that far away from the pharma
No, I'm
industry.
not.
Yeah.
I'm not. I'm
So
not.
do you see pharma on the horizon potentially? What are the interesting spaces in pharma tech, so to speak?
Well, like I said, I'm currently working with clinical related data, and I'm grateful for that edge, because I'm not confused about the data at all. I've worked up in paddle, so it's pretty nice. And then I usually say that I learned so much about research in pharmacy school. Maybe 35 or 40% of pharmacy school was spent in the lab. So I have that research as patience. So by the time I'm in AI, I'm not like, I just usually try again and all that. So I'm grateful to pharmacy school for that. And your mind being all over the place too. It has that, it's either you're doing microbiology and all that. So what I'll say about that, I understand pharmacy, I understand AI techniques, I understand quite a number of techniques. So if I decide to take that path, like I said, I'll be having a great time at it.
So the research team you're working on, is the research that you're doing, is it published publicly, or when will it be? How does that work?
Well, we of course it's grant based, so our team it will be published openly. So it will be published openly. What were our findings? What did we do? The technique we applied, but it's currently not published.
Okay, but it will be in the future. So what advice would you give to someone wanting to pursue a path similar to yours? And I'd love to hear your thoughts, not just from the research side, but in particular on trying to be a tech learner, a tech teacher, so to speak, because that is actually a career that's often overlooked, and it's going to be growing in demand for the future. What would your sort of advice or any pieces of knowledge to share you can in trying to move forward in that pathway would be?
Well, I've said it that tech is general. So the goal generally is to demystify. You don't want whatever thing you're teaching to sound out of this world. You want it to be close to people. You want it to be, this is what you use daily. So I'll say be the type of teacher that demystifies. Don't make it sound, demystify, and then leverage on the available resources. Tech is extremely generous. Many things are documented. Quite a number of important things are literally running on open source. I do a little bit of contribution to open source. Apart from this, a bit of code here and there, but yeah. So there are quite a number of tech teachers, maybe not in the way you're thinking of it. YouTube, there are a lot of people teaching, sharing. Oh, I passed through this. You shouldn't have to. Let me teach you. So
So did you start your YouTube before you became a LinkedIn instructor, or was it the other way around?
oh, well, they are not related. Like Of
From
course,
a
everyone.
teaching, I'm looking at it from a teaching perspective.
Okay, from a
Both,
teaching
yeah,
perspective.
yeah,
So I have been teaching a while. Like I said, in my previous role, I was research and innovation lead. So we literally have teams of people coming in to learn about research, like that type of thing. And then it was a community-based organization. So I've been teaching for long. Not necessarily Yoruba, but I've been teaching for a while. I have quite a number of content teaching communities, open source community. This is what this technique works like. So I've been teaching and I've been writing for a very long time. So maybe I have quite a number of technical articles on Medium, a lot of them. So I've been doing it for a while. So
yeah, yeah. And any favorite resources? You've mentioned so much already. Obviously, we know YouTube, we know LinkedIn, Learning, but are there any others you'd love to highlight?
technical textbooks, and then I usually tell everyone trying to switch into tech, go learn how your computer work. Sometimes because people are from varying background, they need different things. For example, if you already have some background in statistics and you're getting into data science, from that perspective, you have it covered. If you're coming from math, you know your linear algebra. If you're coming from computer, you probably know Python already. So your need is different. People who are entirely like me, coming from a different perspective, then we're learning the three. So it's different. And the goal is for you to understand the conversations and be able to figure out what is most important to you. And quite a number of people want to outsource that, but you can become great at it if you want to outsource that thinking and how to distill. Quite a number of people. I get thousands of DMs. I should come teach them from scratch. And I'm like, no, no, I can't. You're asking for too much. But, but,
Wow, from scratch, one to one.
oh, I get interesting messages. I get very interesting messages. Like, why? But it's pretty cool. I get really cool messages too. So I'm not over judging. I'm judging people who want me to teach them daily from scratch, to talk to them, call them. I'm like, wow. I'm going to say, people. So learn how a computer works. Uh, the basics of computing. You know, the basics. This is how it works. This is it's the baseline for everyone, because especially for people who be transitioning careers. There are quite a number of pharmacies, people who want to do things in tech. It's okay. You know it it would be unfair to tell people that they must be passionate about something. If you want to do it to improve your financial or your life basis, totally do it. Yes, especially women, because sometimes women need that ginger. Like, when it's time to make a choice, oh, you're thinking of these. Don't pick the one that they say is just clinical. Pick the one that they pay them well. This is the Nigerian in me talking. Yes, yes. Pick the one when it's time to invest your time in learning a skill. It's totally okay to look at the best paid, the ones
You're looking
who.
for maximum return on investment.
Yeah, perfect. Where you can maximize value, those are the ones you should pick and invest your time in and ensure that you're great at it. Like, that's the goal, to be so good at it. And so I'll say learn the fundamental of computing. Because sometimes I've written quite a number of articles about it. I make threads on Twitter when I can. I talk about these things. I've been talking about them for years, for years. So, but I'll say learn how computing works. It's an entire field you're trying to learn. So you're not going to do well after just two courses. You know, the reason why it's confusing is because you don't know enough. So you're not going to do well. Like, oh, we went for this training for 3 days. Am I a data scientist? No, you're not. Of course, I won't tell you that, but you're not. You can answer some of the most important questions yet.
No, this is wonderful advice. Where can our listeners connect with you online?
I'm usually on Twitter.
Twitter.
It's my name is the same everywhere. Where are you will say, or maybe where are you will say. Twitter and LinkedIn. I think that's fair enough. I don't have the energy to talk to people like everywhere, but I try. I usually try to respond because sometimes some people just need a little push and then they do exceedingly well. About several people all over the years, like they just need a little clarity. Sometimes some people are not serious, but I just try to give the baseline because it can be life changing. So I always try to do that.
It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you today, Marola. Thank you so much for coming on the show. We're wishing you every success in your research, in all your instructing, and looking forward to seeing you do even bigger things for the future.
Have a great evening.